There he is.
It's like
oh God, it's
hole.
terrible lighting.
It's a black hole. Cookie, turn your computer around. Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
God.
Cookie looks like...
Cookie, I realize you're the black member of the podcast, but like you're literally playing that gimmick up right now.
Well, listen, man. I was just trying to get up here first, and then I was going to adjust the...
Cookie, it looks like you're like one of those anonymous witnesses that they interview on the news.
He needs to have that voice.
It's just you can see the outline of the person.
I'm unlocked. You have to unlock me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to $2 Steak, a pro wrestling podcast. Unlike always, I am Big Mike, your host today. The boys are away at WrestleMania. No, they're not. All right, so they are here zooming in because WrestleMania was moved from Tampa. I am joined, as always, by your boy Cookie.
Okay.
Chris Tolbert.
Oh, yeah.
And filling in for me in the Greenhorn spot, Aaron Varnam.
I would like to add that if this was really, a real WrestleMania week, we would be watching Minoru Suzuki wrestling Orange Cassidy right now. So go fuck yourself, Mike.
Yes.
And by wrestling, you mean destroying.
Dude, I don't know. Like, in my head, I'm like trying to come up what that match would have been like. And anyway, it sounds awesome.
I wanted to see it more than WrestleMania almost.
I literally sent a tear-jerking text to the boys because I feel so bad for you guys, particularly after seeing Pac versus Orange Cassidy. You know that Suzuki and Orange Cassidy would have just put on an absolute spectacle of a show.
Well, Aaron, you didn't want to watch Jeff Hart?
No, I did. No. Like, Jeff Hart was like my number 2 for the week was Jeff Hart wrestling possibly Kenta Kobashi, which would have been amazing.
All right. So for those of you who didn't listen to the very end of the last podcast, we are switching it up a little bit for the month of April. We are going to be alternating hosts. So this week is your boy Big Mike. Next week is Cookie. And for the 420 episode, we will be doing Chris, the high spot Tolbert, managing and somehow trying to figure out hosting this entire podcast. Boys,
you just wait.
Boys, I was actually didn't realize this when I chose to do this episode, and when Aaron actually let me do this episode, I don't think he knew it either.
Yeah, I didn't.
It is 1 year. 1 full year, 52 episodes. This is the 52nd episode of $2 Steak, a pro wrestling podcast. So, what are you guys' thoughts? How have we managed this collective group of unique individuals? How have we managed to do this for 52 episodes?
I have grown in my wrestling love and fandom over this year. I think that all of us have grown into our roles. Cookie is now a connoisseur of Japanese professional wrestling. Mike is now becoming educated in the history of professional wrestling, and Tolbert's high.
All the time.
Well, I have been this past year. It's been a whirlwind of a year. Lots of ups and downs. We had some great wrestling trips because of this podcast, got us on the road to see a lot of things and just kind of re-spark that love I've always had for it, even though I've kind of put it on the back burner in the past few years. And this little project of ours kind of, just brought all that back up. And now that we're getting older and starting families and stuff, I'm just ready to pass down the knowledge, force it, upon our friends and family via this podcast.
I think we've all evolved in a way, and I think that's how we've managed. I have changed. We've all used to, just rally off stuff throughout the match. We just used to talk about it, from start to complete finish, and we've all kind of we've changed our style up a little bit. I've done the cookie count. Mike shortened his segments up a little bit. Tolbert's just high.
So Cookie, what you're trying to say is we've developed a gimmick. We've developed our gimmicks throughout the past year. The one thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to give 2 thumbs up and a high five to Aaron Varnam for not missing a single episode. So all
Holy
us,
shit.
the others. Myself, Tolbert, Cookie. We've missed one or two or a few episodes, and we've had to have fill-ins from anywhere from Sharky, Davenport Pancake, to Zane, the Awesome Dawson, and so Aaron, hats off to you, my friend, for facilitating this and then giving the reins to your three most degenerate wrestling friends.
I just want to say, Jesus, that's a lot of wrestling.
That's a lot of wrestling.
So, boys, I put in the rundown. I would like to talk about if you could take a moment to think about your favorite moments of this podcast history. So that's 52 episodes. There's a couple of extra bonus episodes. There's wrestling trips. What to you is your favorite moment from this?
Hands down, it was Tolbert and the God, what was it called? What do you call it? The Japanese match. He called it a what was the word he used?
Oh God, the concubine. That was your favorite
incident.
Tolbert and the concubine incident.
The concubine incident.
Dear God.
I mean, like, that was nowhere near my top 5 of favorite things that we had.
Aaron, care to rattle off a couple of yours?
Yeah, you go ahead.
And number 5, I think, would be the Uber ride from hell story, which is we're coming up on a year of that. And that was kind of one of our first forays in storytelling. Number 2, I think, introducing the concept of Cookie living in a bubble, I think, was a very good thing. And then introducing slowly but surely last week, we have the cookie list. 3, I think, had to have been Big Mike putting our boy – actually, you know what? I'm going to put that at number 1. Big Mike putting Tolbert through a table and us being able to put together this thing that we had been building up all year, and then being able to call a wrestler, Zane Dawson, our boy Zane Dawson, to come over to my house and pick up a random guy and throw him through a table, all while the pizza guy was holding the boom mic. Now, if that doesn't sound like low rent, amazing, entertaining stuff, I believe that's my number 1. Number 3, I was very proud of the steak Yule log. You guys didn't give it as much credit as it should have gotten.
I like that.
That wasn't in my top 5.
I popped for that thing.
And number 2, I think, would be our story from the quarantine lockdown. I think the entire quarantine lockdown episode, like, everything came together about that, and that 30 minutes was just phenomenal storytelling between Cookie and me and you guys who watched it and got to watch and experience it from a different place, while we were there in Hoke County.
Tolbert?
Oh, man. So mine, let's see. Number 5, start at the bottom, was definitely the Hoke County episode. Just because it took my mind off all the WrestleMania stuff. It was fun. It was really fun to hear you guys commentate it and do all that. It was a blast. Number 4, let's see. It was probably WrestleCade that weekend. Sorry, Mike, you didn't go there. Hopefully all this is done and over with. Excuse me, because the plans they have for WrestleCade this year are supposed to be awesome, and I hope you can go. But that was a blast of a weekend. It was amazing. So fun. And some of my best friends were there as well. Had a great time. So I put it as number 3? Oh, man. Probably number 3 was, I have to say, the first episode we recorded at Mike's house with kids and
it was
the
so
dogs.
terrible.
It was sharing a mic, and this is our first go at this. But it was awesome, and as soon as we did it, I knew, I was like, man, this is gonna keep rolling. I know it is. This is awesome. Number 2 was probably getting put through a table by a Big Mike. That was a really fun night. We built the thing. It was on the fly. It was awesome. Number 1 was probably going to SmackDown with Big Mike, and that it was a reason this podcast came to be. It was around the holidays. It was just a lot of fun. Going to a live event, seeing the Revival versus Heavy Machinery with Big Mike, that was definitely a huge highlight.
So here I am. I actually, this is why I wanted to do this, because I, not that I forgot about some of those moments, but maybe I didn't appreciate them as they were happening, or, it was just nice hearing your guys' thoughts. I actually took this a different way. I actually zoned in and narrowed down to the moments while we were recording the podcast. I actually was thinking in the vacuum of recording this podcast, what was my number one favorite? And you boys didn't mention it, but that organic moment in podcast history when Aaron and I sent the picture to that Twitter dude of Aaron's balls.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
The moment when I had to stop the podcast recording because this guy was being a dumb fuck and we had to send a picture of Aaron's testicles. And that is honestly one of my most organic, hilarious moments that I remembered.
Yeah, I forgot
this
about
podcast. Now, everything else you guys said was heartfelt and understanding, and I wasn't there for some of it, but I was definitely there for the Tolbert through a table moment.
Well, and also, Mike, I forgot to mention it should have been number one. You should have been number two, but my bachelor party.
Yeah,
the $2 steak
there you
bachelor
go.
Party was amazing.
And I think like Aaron said, it really boils down, and Cookie mentioned it too. It's the fact that we have grown together. So we started out as 4 dudes who enjoyed wrestling. From different perspectives and different understanding, and we've grown into this semi-responsible and semi-respected podcast where we discuss wrestling from different points of view, and I really, really appreciate that.
And we have a bunch of sponsors to go along with it.
Yeah, we sold out America when it comes to toilet paper.
We have a new one today, by the way.
Nobody else can do that, and we did that, so I appreciate it.
I think also, like, speaking about us growing and maturing, I think our friendship has grown exponentially over this past year.
Well, considering that Aaron is only socially distanced with his family and wrestling friends, points to that, right, Aaron?
That should be like, a point, right?
I definitely agree.
Swipe right for that.
So anybody else, final comments on 1 year in review, $2 Steak, a pro wrestling podcast?
I honestly didn't think that we were going to be able to keep the momentum going. And I think when we first came up with the podcast and I was like, we can't miss a week. We got to provide content. And you guys keeping on my ass every week, where I'm like, nah, I don't feel like it this week. I'm not in the best of moods, or like something happened, or I'm really busy this weekend. We were always able to find time for each other to put something together. I mean, look at us now. We're in quarantine in uncertain times. We're in a time where I could, die in the next few weeks, but we're still putting together this podcast.
So
because
Aaron, go ahead.
What?
Go ahead, finish.
Oh, no, you just threw me off.
Oh, sorry.
You're like Cookie at Oak County.
What you're trying to say is, in dire times, we kept and said, Aaron, you're booked.
Yeah. Oh,
Aaron.
man. Oh,
You're booked, Aaron. You're booked. No, you're booked, Aaron. All right, boys. Moving forward, it is actually, so to those of you who don't know, we are recording on a Friday, which is never happened in $2 Steak podcast history, but it's because none of us have anything else to do. We are literally sitting in our houses, imbibing on whatever vices that we may. Aaron has chosen cheerwine.
Sparkling water.
Sparkling water. I have chosen bourbon and Busch Light. Tolbert, Cookie are imbibing on alcohol and other fringe necessities.
I don't think it's a fringe now.
They are. This is WrestleMania weekend, right? So yeah. I am not going to dwell on the fact that you guys were supposed to be there. I was actually I wanted your thoughts on. It is the 21st century, right? So in today's world, taped wrestling shouldn't and isn't and hasn't been a thing in a long time. Take out NWA on YouTube. The mainstream, the big guys, they're doing live events. So what are your thoughts on the fact that not only are we seeing a taped WrestleMania, but we will likely be seeing taped segments of Raw, SmackDown, and AEW Dynamite for the foreseeable future?
I think as long I have I have a problem with self-control when it comes to spoilers. And I think that them being able to keep tight-lipped about who won, who lost, everything in WrestleMania right now, I still have an air of interest for WrestleMania. I'm still excited to watch it, and I'm still excited to experience it with you guys because nobody else knows what happened except for the people that were there.
I would 100% agree with that. I am also very guilty of getting on the internet and just reading random things because if I get bored or whatever, I go on Reddit or I go on Twitter and I see all this sort of stuff. And I've caught wind of one or two, actually two big main spoilers, but they're more, the one was like almost national news and the other one is just a random spoiler regarding that single piece and thread. And I am actually very surprised as well that they have not, and that nothing has leaked. And you mentioned that Dynamite has taped episodes that could potentially last weeks and weeks and weeks through May even.
Yeah.
And I only found out about that from you. And then hours later, I finally read about it on the internet. So, agreed. And do you guys think it's because of how few people they have involved in those single episodes?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a good thing. Because when you've got a bunch of wrestling fans, they all want to scoop each other. When you've got an asshole like Brad Shepard, who has got ears and eyes everywhere, and
that motherfucker's blind as a goddamn bat, dude.
Yeah, but you know what? His scoops are legit. Sometimes Dave Meltzer, his scoops are legit. But when you've got such a small group of people, you can find out who leaked those spoilers very quickly. And then you could, fire that person.
But it can't go on. It can't go on forever. And hopefully, all this ends swiftly because, wrestling wouldn't be where it is today without live, in the moment shows with live audiences. It's just like you have to play off that energy, and you can't replicate that no matter what you do. It just has to happen. It can't be, just all pre-tape shows.
Like I feel like I'm the king of isolation. I hate spoilers. I'm trying to stay away from all of it. So I'm super excited about WrestleMania this year, but I'm also excited about next year because, boys, we're going to Hollywood.
We're going to Los Angeles, baby.
Hey,
Goddamn right.
I've started a savings fund. I'm
you
saving
better
up
believe it.
Katie. I told my bosses, I'm like, look, next year I'm going to LA.
Yeah, my grandfather, he sends checks for the kids, and what he doesn't know is that's my WrestleMania fund.
I don't think Donald Trump knows that he's paying for my WrestleMania.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was like, don't tell North Carolina unemployment / Donald Trump, we're going to WrestleMania, baby.
Hey, thinking about it, it was sad. I was very devastated that we weren't allowed to go to Tampa.
Same.
And but you know what? It was just a speck in what's going on in the world right now. Things are going on that you don't have control over.
And I'm glad that they have taped these shows, and at least given us something,
Yeah.
AEW's definitely done a lot better job. This past Wednesday was awesome. I was thoroughly entertained. It's something, but I think it will, it's not going to stay like this. It'll go back to full live shows because, it's just magical sometimes. You never know what's going to happen for the better or worse,
True. And that's something to be said about the sport of wrestling is that the show must go on. And unlike sports like basketball or baseball or hockey where, you need that large, team presence, you need all of this surrounding the underneath people to do all these sorts of things. Wrestling, you need a cameraman. You need 2 workers, and honestly, you can go from there. And so the fact that they've been able to do what they have, I really appreciate. Because right now that's like the only thing on TV that is new and exciting. Aaron,
and I'm proof that all you need is 1 cameraman and 2 workers, and you can put on a hell of a show, kids. I had one for 5 years.
Aaron's proof that you can put on a show. It doesn't have to be good, but it's a show.
Not at all.
But there will be a show.
People will watch it.
So leading into that, so this week I have chosen several different matches. Again, Aaron forgot to edit out the entire Fight Club segment of the last episode, but I was choosing matches for the guys this week that incorporated individuals who I have grown immensely to respect and enjoy their work and their presence in the wrestling industry. The one thing I talked about last week that, again, Aaron didn't cut out was that you run down some rabbit holes, right? So I get this thing in my head that I want to find a match with this one individual, and I find out that he had a match with somebody else, and then I cannot find a link, but that leads me to several other links of different matches, and so that's how I came to find the match that I gave the boys this week.
Wait a minute, Mike.
Go ahead. Sure.
You've learned to respect and love Jeff Hart's work rate over the past year?
Well, Aaron, you're giving out some spoilers, and you're no-selling the work rate of Raider Rock as well as the Outsiders. So I would respectfully ask you to shut your fucking mouth.
Oh, wow.
All right. But before we get to our matches, I want to do two things, boys. One, I'd like to give a moment of silence and an RIP to those we've lost this week due to the coronavirus. Namely, Bill Withers, Adam Schlesinger, and Joe Diffie. All right, Bill Withers is famous for the Lean on Me and Ain't No Sunshine songs. Lean on Me actually is my graduating high school class's song. Why? I don't know, because half of us hated the other half. So don't quite get that. But Stacy's Mom, boys, I mean, that's a foundation of any millennial.
Oh, yeah.
Any millennial's teenage years. Cookie, maybe not so much, but.
No, I still heard it. I heard it around.
Yeah, you heard Stacy's Mom when you were in 6th grade?
Yeah, 4th grade.
And then, of course, Joe Diffie.
Pickup man? Prop me up on a jukebox?
John Deere Green.
On a hot summer night.
The world lost some greats this week. So, yeah, I just wanted to give a moment of silence to those.
Tiny bubbles and wine make me happy, make me feel fine.
And speaking of things we've lost this week, Cookie, did you pop any bubbles?
I did, so I put it in the rundown that I don't know if I talked about this last week, but for the first time ever, I watched like the first string of Marvel, like the Marvel series. Listen. I know.
How many movies was that?
That was a total of 6 movies. I'm on Thor: Dark World.
Was that up to Avengers 1?
Yes, I'm past Avengers 1. I'm at Thor: Dark World right now.
Dark World.
Go outside, Cookie.
Listen.
You're allowed to exercise.
Listen, I was a big Marvel hater when those movies was coming out because I loved The Dark Knight. I loved it. I didn't want anything else. People would be like, "Hey, what about Batman Begins? That was fucking horrible." Or Justice League, and I'm like, "What about The Dark Knight?" Huh?
I liked Batman Begins.
Well, some people are haters, man.
Cookie, did you read the comic books, or have you only watched the movies?
I've only watched the movies.
Okay, so you're right there with me. What are your thoughts on the movies? Give us the rundown. Give us the Cookie bubble list.
So far, I loved every single movie from. I'm watching them in chronological order. So I went from Captain America to.
It takes a lot of effort, Cookie.
It does. I went from Captain America to Captain Marvel. So even though the movies are years apart, it's in chronological order from when the events happened. So right now, I love every single movie except for the first Captain America. That was pretty boring and dull. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But I fell asleep in the theater when I saw that shit.
I'll tell you. So, Cookie, again, I've never read a comic book in my life.
False. You read the Andy Kaufman and and I purchased you the History of Professional Wrestling.
I hate to break it to you. I never read the Andy Kaufman book you gave me, and I only got halfway through the History of Professional Wrestling.
You need to finish that. It's really good.
Okay, well, noted. But, Cookie, as somebody who has never read any comic books and only ever watched the Marvel movies, I'm right there with you. I think that they were very solid movies. They were very entertaining, right? There's not a lot of low points, and it tells a story, much like professional wrestling. And you boys know me. I love a good story. And those movies, they do what they're meant to do, and that's entertain you. It gets you to buy into the next episode. It gets you into next week, what's going to happen. So I respect you, Cookie. Any other final thoughts on Poppin' Bubbles?
No, man. I can't wait for the rest of the series to see what else Stan Lee is going to tell me.
So wait, you haven't seen Endgame at all?
Haven't seen.
You haven't seen Black Panther?
I've seen Black Panther. I've seen both of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Cookie, can I just say, wait till you see Thor Ragnarok, because that is the top one for me. That is my favorite of all of the Marvel movies.
We saw that in theater together, right?
We did, and I think we held hands because it was so good.
Yeah, it was good.
So, Cookie, whose Disney Plus password do you have?
It's actually mine. I personally bought that. I personally bought the Disney Plus password. I was gonna go through my father, but now I was like, no, you know what? I'll use my own.
Wait, what does your dad watch on Disney Plus?
He watches the Marvel movies just like I do. He fucking loves it. He's watching Kim Possible. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Your dad watches a Goofy movie and just thinks about how, growing up with Cookie was like, and how he tried to take him on a fishing trip, and Cookie just wasn't feeling it and wanted to go to the Powerline concert.
Hey, listen, Powerline was amazing, man. He should have come out with an album.
All right, well, everyone, stay tuned next week to hear how Cookie grows as a person and experiences things that most of us have already experienced. Let's get to some wrestling on this wrestling podcast. All right, for our first matchup. Sorry, I'm not used to this. Our first matchup, Aaron Varnam. I gave you Arn Anderson versus the Great Muta for an NWA television title. What are your thoughts?
So you gave me Arn Anderson against how Jim Ross calls him, the Great Muta. It's two very specific, noises. Muta. So it is from NWA Power Hour, January 2nd, 1990. You have got two of my favorites on the call, Jim Ross, a very young Jim Ross, and another Jim Cornette.
At this point, was Jim Ross actually that young, though? I feel like he'd been working for, who was it? Who did he work for? Crockett. He worked for Crockett for a while. Crockett, this is a part of Crockett's stuff. Okay. But he also worked for USWA and then UWF. So he had been around since like the early 80s working stuff. So that's Cowboy Bill Watts. All right, so first third of a career. Yeah, and then finally Cowboy Bill Watts, NWA, went over there. Anyways, so we're getting this matchup. Arn Anderson against the Great Muta. First off, the first thing I notice is the audience. The audience is filled with every member of my extended family. We've got my Uncle James with an awesome trucker hat. We've got some of the trashy members of my family that I never talked to in Varnam Town. We got some shrimpers in the corner. We have got everybody wearing the NASCAR jackets. Yes, Mike. Well, no, are you done describing your family? Yeah. So which member of your family wore the Schnauzer dog sweater? That would be my Aunt Connie. God rest her soul. She was a very by-the-book, good Christian lady, and she would wear the Schnauzer. She'd wear the Disney sweatshirts. So you're saying Aunt Connie sat front and center on the NWA Power Hour? And now, as long as she could pray for the wrestlers beforehand and afterwards, she would be there probably.
This lady did too. She did.
Dude, this lady was all about her some NWA Power Hour. So the first thing I noticed when Arn walks out, Arn has got this he's 30 going on 50. This look about him, he's got this dad swag. Very focused, very serious, just all about going in there and getting a W. Great Muta comes out, beautiful long hair, beautiful black face paint with whatever he has written on his face, which probably means apple or something, something that Muta wrote in his native language, which Jim Ross keeps referring to as Oriental. Like I
was hoping you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, he still does that, Aaron. Yeah. So I think they've told him not to do that.
Like, dude, you can't say that.
Multiple times during the match, he said, "Great Muta, the Oriental man," in quotation mark, the Oriental man. And I'm
Aaron,
just like, well, all right.
what were your thoughts on the stare down between Muta and Arn Anderson?
The one that ended with Muta, doing his neck like that and then spitting the mist.
The slow throat slash.
Yeah. So Arn he takes no shit. He's the guy that he's the dad that you don't want to fuck with. Like the one dad that you're always intimidated about. Like
it's a dad I hope to be.
Yeah. It's the guy that you are just like, you're not sure about this dad. If you're going to date somebody's daughter, right? He's the dad that sits out on the front porch cleaning his shotgun before you take his daughter out on a date, which I've had happen to me before, and it made me very uncomfortable, and it threw me off my game. Anyway, so they have this stare down, and the match begins. Arn and Muta, for what they are very technical wrestlers. They're trading collegiate shots back and forth, wrist locks, takedowns, and it goes on like this for a couple minutes. It's a very tit-for-tat kind of matchup. Muta showing that he is just as technical as Arn Anderson, who is known for his technical expertise. This, like I said, this goes on for a couple minutes, and then out comes Chris Tolbert and a walking penis. Buzz Sawyer and the Dragon Master come out, both members of the J-Tex Corporation. These two men come in. The Dragon Master, who is Sakurada, or also known as Kendo Nagasaki in Japan. These two men are kind of cornering Arn Anderson, and Arn, to compensate, he changes up his style a little bit. He's nervous, outnumbered. He's always keeping one eye to the crowd. Like I said, Buzz Sawyer, a man who is known being kind of like a crazy wrestler, looks and acts just like Tolbert the entire time. I think he was probably high. And Buzz Sawyer's got the same hairline as Tolbert and same gut and just
What?
Beautiful man.
I feel like Tolbert is a little taller than Buzz Sawyer.
Yeah, I think he might.
I'm not sure.
Hey, Aaron,
Buzz is not a bad-looking guy. He might have a gut. He's got those pecs. He's got those arms. He's got those shoulders.
Hey, Aaron, to reel Cookie in a little bit, the guy that came out with Buzz Sawyer, what was his name?
The Dragon Master.
So the Dragon Master actually looks like one of the characters from Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he actually he's kind of like a cross between Doctor Strange, and he's got these glasses on.
The guy with Doctor Strange, not actually.
Right. But he also looks like
not
the villain.
Benjamin Cumberbatch. Come on, man.
The villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark. The guy whose face melts at the end.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right, so back to the match at hand. Jim Cornette does not shut the fuck up the whole time, and it's pretty interesting, some of the things he's saying. He's talking about the rednecks and everything like that. Back to the match. Muta's back handspring, back elbow is amazing. He whips Arn Anderson to the corner and does like a gymnastic floor routine, and then finally back elbows the guy. It looks really cool. Jim Cornette's kind of talking about the Four Horsemen at the time, who apparently face at the time of this matchup. And he says that Sting is one of the possibilities of being in these Four Horsemen. I just wanted to say this to get a pop out of Tolbert. But Jim Cornette claims that Sting cannot live the horseman lifestyle. Sting just wants to take vitamins and talk to kids. A little bit creepy.
He wants to talk to girls on the strip, dude, while he's pumping iron and catching a tan, bro.
Because we know Sting is, quote, so horny.
Yeah, he is.
Just like the T-shirt. Now, as the match goes on, Arn Anderson's still working the left arm of the great Muta. And I love when somebody body slams somebody with a hammer-locked arm behind him. So he body slams them on the arm.
So I feel like you gave me a match where I saw this move happen, and I talked about how aggressive and how uncomfortable that move made me feel, because there's no holding back on that. Like that you can actually physically hurt your shoulder, like legitimately. And when I saw Arn do that to Muta, I mean, great move, perfect execution, gave me the queasies.
Well, and it fits into this character of him being a ring technician who's working that one body part the whole time. And I think that move is very good for what it is.
What did you think about Arn, like when he was like doing those knee drops on Muta's arm and just like and so you talked about them being face, but like when Arn was scraping his pad on Muta's arm like behind the ref's back and all that sort of stuff. What did you think about that?
Well, I think at the time it was that kind of character. They were the cool bad guys, which not necessarily, full on face. It's kind of like the Stone Cold, where they don't take shit from anybody, sort of thing. And Ric Flair, you're never going to take him being the dirtiest player in the game, and that kind of was how the mentality of the Four Horsemen were at the time. Arn Anderson doing little things. You're seeing him work fingers. You're seeing him work at the wrist. He's doing these little things that are just kind of lost in today's style of professional wrestling.
I would 100% agree with you, and that's what I was actually going to say is I feel like you don't see that. I would say we've seen some of that in more of the AEW style of professional wrestling today, where you don't see any of that in the WWE style, where, yeah, like Arn's working the knee scrape on the pad on the arm, and then later on he like rubs his laces across Muta's face. Like you don't see that, and it's like that little nugget is what I feel like buys me in as like an outside fan. Go ahead.
Now you do see that out of two wrestlers that I like that tag up with each other. They're called the Revival, and Scott Dawson is Arn Anderson reincarnated. I think their style is very similar.
I would 100% agree with you. I love the Revival. They are exactly what we're looking for in that like old school heelish tag team.
Now Arn Anderson is known for his spine buster, huge spine buster on Muta. But at that point, the Dragon Master distracts the referee. He jumps up on the apron, and then Buzz Sawyer comes in with a cheap shot.
Now, hold on, Aaron. You kind of no-sold how big of a spine buster that was.
No. I wrote in all caps, spine buster.
Dude, yeah, that.
So
Arn Anderson hitting a spine buster, like that should be a finishing move in a Mortal Kombat movie. Like that thing is dirty. Like it's massive. It's huge.
Their spine shoots out their asshole as soon as that happens.
Actually, half of it out the ass, half of it out the head. Like, let's go.
So you get this spine buster for the Hope spot. It sets up the great Muta going for his vaulted finishing move, which is something that you never saw at this time, and it was a moonsault. Arn Anderson, a very smart competitor, somebody that has done his homework, blocks it. And it's a big deal. Nobody blocks the great Muta's moonsault.
How technical was that knees up? Like it was.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was proper and prim. Like never. I didn't see it coming.
So once that happens, Arn Anderson is able to get a very quick and beautiful DDT, very snap DDT, and get the win. And he is your new NWA television title holder. And he went on to hold it for a while and ended up being one of the greatest television title champs in the history of the NWA and then later WCW. He got out of the ring really quick to get away from those numbers, and there you have it, folks. Arn Anderson is your man.
What are your thoughts on a DDT just kind of like being a move nowadays, not actually a finishing move?
I like the DDT, and now it's become a transitional, and you don't kind of get that. I don't know, that feeling. You see it so much when you have somebody like Jake the Snake, started the move, and then Arn Anderson using it as a finisher. It was a move that was an exclamation point back then, and it was something that finished up a matchup. And then, here and there. Oh, and now it's like the Tope Suicido. It's a move that, like, people are like, oh, that's a cool move, and started using it more often. And then once that kind of happens, more people start using it. And it's like the COVID-19. It just becomes an exponential thing where everybody is doing this move.
Like hipsters.
I mean,
like hipsters.
Honestly, it's a pretty easy move to do. You've got somebody in a front chin lock and fall backwards. It's a pretty easy move with a lot of impact.
The move you always did to your brother. It's the first. I think it's the first wrestling move that you learn wrestling with your sibling or friends or whatever. Is DDT. You know.
And I love that move, and I think it's a great move. But you know, it's a sign of the times. Like that was the finisher at the time. So there you go.
Aaron, final thoughts on Arn Anderson versus the great Muta.
Muta. Now, we've talked about it before. I love both of these competitors. I think Muta, it was something different and at the time. And I wish that I was able to live during that time to see great Muta come out and just be awed by his quick karate kicks, as they called them, like his spinning back kick. You know, these little moves that you see commonplace now. He was an innovator, and he was a foreign threat in the 1980s when people were still that woman with the poodle skirt. Remember D-Day? You know, like he was this Japanese man coming into her territory, coming into Atlanta or wherever this was filmed. And she was getting bombed by that goddamn moonsault.
Did you just watch Pearl Harbor while you're on lockdown?
Yes. But you know, I mean, like you're thinking about it like that. The crowd was a little older, and people are still got their feelings hurt,
especially down south, man.
Yeah, and I think that being able to have a matchup between these two competitors. Two guys that I really respect, and like I dig their work style, and I dig how they're able to tell a story. Even if you have the run-in, you know, and the ref distraction and stuff like that, it still was a matchup that had a concise story. It was 3-on-1 at one point, you know, like Arn is working like a cat backed into a corner. What is he going to do? How is he going to fight out of this? He's going to have to use this, and this, and his technical ingenuity to be able to get that win, and he did. And I thought it was a great match.
All right, Aaron, if you are ready, you are tasked with this week's social media update.
Mike, before we do our social media update, I'd like to say, you know, everybody knows the world is in a panic right now, and it's hard to find all the goods. You need to keep you and your family safe, fed, entertained. Boys, have you ever needed to purchase shaving cream, peanut butter, a $3 DVD set of all public domain Western movies, and also multiple month-long WWE network subscription cards? Do you feel like going to Walmart is too much risk of exposing you to the dreaded China virus?
All the time.
I do.
Well, hop on down to your neighborhood Dollar General and find everything your heart desires for a reasonable price. Here in Wilmington, we literally have Dollar Generals on every corner. So that means that carton of off-brand milk that you've always wanted to try is but a stone's throw away. This week only, come on down to the DG and pick up a free case of the coronavirus with every purchase. Because at the Dollar General, no one covers their mouth when they cough, and everyone smokes menthols. A huge thank you to Dollar General for sponsoring this week's $2 Steak, a pro wrestling podcast.
I would just like to say thank you, Dollar General, for being there when the world needs you the most, for being the light at the end of the tunnel, for being the supplier to our needs. So, yes, again, thank you, Dollar. Salute, Dollar General. Thank you so much.
Because
Boys,
of you, we will not crash Aaron's network membership.
Yeah, half of you guys were sans WWE Network. And it's so sad that the two responsible members of our pro wrestling group chat were Cookie and I. Of all people, we had subscriptions to the network.
Well, I had a bootleg subscription, but you wanted to make
Mike, you're a fucking doctor.
And I piggyback off you, Varnam.
Hey, man, I don't want to support that company. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
So I ended up, full disclosure, I ended up buying a bunch of discounted 1 month subscriptions to the WWE Network so all the boys could get together and watch it. This is my idea of a Zoom party, a WrestleMania party, because I knew we were not going to be able to get together. I usually spend that amount of money on barbecue alone for the WrestleMania. So this year, we're going to be watching it with $7.50, $9.99 month-long subscriptions to WWE.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, it's the little things you've done throughout the year like this that have kept us going. Cheers.
Aaron, these things are the reason why we bought you that Terry Funk action figure.
Oh, which I think I'm going to have to unbox during.
Just hold him tightly.
I have to unbox him during WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Him and I are going to be watching it.
We'll do an unboxing Zoom chat. And didn't you make another purchase today?
Oh my God! I forgot. How did we no-sell this week? This great social media company, Lapel. Yeah, they are one of these like small batch professional wrestling shirt makers. And this week, they have had daily WrestleMania things that they were doing. This is a company that on Sunday, I think 2 of us are actually going to run a 5K because of this company. They have Wrestle Run 2020, and it's a way to kind of get people involved and stuff. And some of the money that they have raised are going back to people. Anyways, so this company has been releasing exclusive content through the week that is limited. They've only got a few things of each. On Monday, they released a coloring book. I bought 2 copies of it. I'm gonna have one that I'm gonna color in and one that I'm gonna save for my collection. I don't know. I'm a fucking nerd. Okay. On Tuesday, they came out with a Tiger King themed professional wrestling poster that had all of the wrestlers. It had Jushin Thunder Liger. It had Tiger Mask. It had Undertaker holding a cub and stuff like that. On Wednesday, Lapel, came out with some other stuff. So I have bought things throughout the week, right? On Thursday, I bought a really cool Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. Today, the theme was neon lights, blinded by the lights. And I was excited to kind of find out what it was. And I get the notification that it's a fucking neon light collection. So I bought the WCW logo in neon, a neon light version of the WCW logo that is going to be going right above Slim Jim, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Terry Funk. I'm going to mount it on the wall. And boys,
right in the home of $2 Studios.
$2 Studios is going to look official. I'm going to look like the Dan Patrick show.
I'm so excited.
You know how Dan Patrick has those signs in the background and everything? I'm going to look official.
So next week when we Zoom and we upload it onto YouTube, we will see, hopefully, the WCW.
Oh, no, I think it'll take a couple weeks for it to come in.
That is
up a little bit.
That's unfortunate.
All right, so back to the social media update. This week, Twitter, 278 followers. Instagram, 120. And that is all on the back of one post from Tolbert, and then that post was today. Tolbert giving the rules that he didn't create.
No.
The rules that he...
Stealing content. One thing Tolbert's good at, stealing content.
I figured we'd mention it in the podcast where they came from.
Yeah, because we're mentioning it because Cookie and his girlfriend made it. Cookie, thank you for the list.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was a very good list. So this week, some of the highlights this week, we had a tweet that reached almost 1,500 impressions. It had 2 retweets, and it had a reply from the official account of Wilmington. The city of Wilmington posted this really dumb haiku, and they're like, stay away from me, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, we'd like to hear your COVID-19 haikus because it's Natural Poetry Day. And I see it, and I was able to jump in on this tweet pretty early, and I wrote, we are stir crazy. Watching old Ric Flair matches. Wait, we haven't changed. Because we were doing that before COVID-19. We had 2 retweets from that. The city of Wilmington replied with a woo. I replied with a gif of Ric Flair strutting, with stuff like that. We also had another tweet this week that reached a good ever of quarantine. We Zoom watched at Joey Janela versus Jeff Hart for hashtag $5 wrestling. It exceeded our expectations. That table was a tough SOB. Also, watch for Joey's chair toss from across the arena. We got 2 retweets from that. One from the creator of $5 Wrestling, another from a fan, and we got a reply from Ricky Morton himself, the man, the myth, the legend. He replied to it, and he said, "Yeah, we want to see Joey versus Jeff Part 2."
Do we?
I do.
I know I do.
I replied with, "We want to see an Iron Man match between the two," and then I said, "A 20-minute Iron Man match because that's all Jeff could take." Throughout the week, I started making our own GIFs, and we got some traction with those. We have a GIF of Terry looking at a horse's ass, Terry emerging out of a box with a chainsaw. But mostly my GIFs were of Jeff Hart and Terry Funk.
Aaron, can you talk to us about the Ryan Satin tweet?
Oh, Mike, you're pulling an Aaron. You're pulling the cart.
No,
I
I didn't know where you were going, so I just decided to pull the trigger on it.
I believe that now it is time for Aaron Varnam's list. Now you know that Big Mike, an angry young man. I'm the resident optimist of the group, the happy-go-lucky optimist of our group, and that means that we have a different list this week. It's Aaron, hey man, nice tweet list.
Oh, hear the music for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be Hey Man, Nice Shot by Filter. All right, our first entrant into the Hey Man, Nice Tweet list is Brandon Stroud. Brandon Stroud, the writer and contributing editor for With Leather, a great pro wrestling blog. He wrote, "Maybe this year's WrestleMania is just an April Fool's joke." Kind of sad. We retweeted that with some sad faces. We also got one of my favorite events of the week was Chris Jericho releasing the hounds. If you guys had watched The Simpsons over the years, Mr. Burns, whenever he wanted people off his property, he'd say, "Release the hounds." So being able to see his group of hound dogs come out and, the Chihuahua, the Shih Tzu, and all that stuff made me laugh out loud. Simpsons wrestling memes wrote, "Or what? You'll release the dogs or the bees or the dogs with bees in their mouth, and when they bark, they shoot bees at you." And they showed Chris Jericho, and it made me laugh. And then finally, Ryan Satin wrote, "My dog apparently kicked her poop into the door while I was showering. Mad, but also kind of impressed." And I replied with, "Nah, that's just Brad Shepard." Folks,
I actually saw that while I was taking it.
Aaron on Twitter this week it literally reminded me of that time way back when, early on in our podcast history, when I did not give a shit about my job and I spent most of my time on Twitter. And we were getting Braun Strowman, all this sort of stuff, and just lots of traction every which way. So, Aaron, I really appreciate you being in quarantine, and I appreciate you taking the lead on the social media this week.
Not caring about his job.
Tolbert, you really need to step it up. I mean, you've had 2 posts in 2 weeks.
I've been busy, man. I've been cleaning out things. I've been riding my bike. I've been drinking beers. Been doing things. There's just not. It's just like, what do you want from me?
Okay.
Tolbert, I'm trying to help you out, man. Bull Nakano might be following our podcast very soon on Instagram. Possibly.
Awesome.
I'll try to do that for you this week.
There we go.
It's going to be a very active week on Instagram. Trust me, guys.
Yeah, you hear that? That's what I'm talking about, Tolbert.
All right, so with that, we will head to the strong style. This week, I gave Cookie a match between Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano versus Minoru Suzuki and Shelton Benjamin. Cookie.
What an interesting combination of people Mike gave to me. Suzuki and Ishii. We all know these people. They are both horses. They're not horses. They're horses. We all know this. We've watched several of their matches. They can work their asses off. Yano, he brings the deception to the table. He's the wolf in sheep's clothing. He's going to attack when the time is right. And last but not least, Shelton Benjamin. Multiple titles under his belt, proved himself in WWE, ROH. He's typically not given the push that most people feel like he deserves. I will say I'm also behind that movement. And I think Shelton has outperformed a lot of people during his first stint in the WWE. His one drawback was, of course, his mic skills. But this match, we have some very talented people, and they're mixing it up in the ring. Shelton is bringing his he's starting to bring it to the Stone Pit Bull. They start off the match. It was like two Rams butting heads with each other. Now, don't get me wrong. Ishii is a big, meaty man. But Shelton isn't a small dude either. I think he's like the tallest man in this match, if I'm not mistaken.
Foot taller than Ishii. It's insane.
It is. I mean, I thought Ishii was a tall person. But I think it's
Cookie, you talk about the Stone Pitbull. Like, how badass is that shirt?
Oh, it's so fucking
like
badass,
I saw that and I'm like, I want that shirt.
Same.
Because he's the epitome of a Stone Pitbull.
He really is. But like, you get Ishii and Shelton in the match starting it off, and I'm like, oh, Shelton's a big boy. I didn't realize it, but Shelton's a big dude. And man, he was talking trash after each shoulder tackle. So now I'm getting hype. I'm hyped because of this match. And initially I figured, Shelton would be the jobber. I mean, you look at the way he's being booked now, like, I'm kind of surprised that he was going head to head with Ishii, and he was standing tall. He was doing well. But anyway, let's get to the countdown.
Cookie's top 4. Number 1.
Wait, this is really random. I'm just going to throw this out here. We get a Taka Michinoku sighting in this match. Did you notice that, Mike?
Is he the blonde one on the side of the ring?
He's the other guy that's right beside him, the shorter one. He's the shorter one.
I did not notice that then.
Very random. But anyway, my number 1, listen to me. I don't know, and I don't care what you call that cul-de-sac mohawk that Minoru Suzuki was rocking in this match.
Cul-de-sac mohawk.
I was going to ask you, Cookie, what were your thoughts on the hair versus hair? Suzuki versus Yano's blonde hair.
Oh my God, Yano's blonde hair
looks exactly like yours, Cookie.
Fuck you. Mine looks a lot better, and I will never do my beard. I will never dye my beard blonde, and he did.
Cookie is the black Toru Yano. He's going to try to sell his DVDs here in a few minutes.
Yano looks like he was trying to imitate Sheamus or something, just dyed the whole thing blonde. It was pretty gross. But Minoru Suzuki is a killer. He has to be. He does not care. Listen, if he's willing to do that to his hair, a cul-de-sac mohawk, then he doesn't give a fuck about anybody else's well-being.
Now, was the design, did it have some like animal print in the design as well? Like the front part, it was like some Tiger King bullshit.
That's what I was just about to say. I was about to say, it looked like some Hope County Tiger King bullshit.
Why you got to throw Hope County into this?
I don't know, man.
There probably are some tigers in Hope County.
Well, we'd like to thank all of our Hope County listeners that have stayed with us throughout the 52 episodes.
We would like to thank them, but at the same time, I have another Hope County reference later on in my segment. So
shit.
We'll get to that later. But anyway, Suzuki and Yano, they were in the crowd. Literally, Suzuki is kicking the shit out of Yano in the 5th row, straight knees to chest. And I'm not talking about running. He was just decking him in the freaking chin with his knee. Suzuki grabs the referee and just pushes him over some chairs. This man is an assassin, and I don't know if I'd ever get in the ring with him. Is all I have to say about Suzuki. He's a badass. And once again, I don't know what him and Orange Cassidy would have done in the ring, but I know it would have been beautiful.
I'm so sad about that.
I am too. But let's go to number 2.
I would have lost my voice at that match. I would have thrown up just like as soon as we left the arena.
Tolbert's like, is it Wendy, the girlfriend on South Park that always throws up? Like when Stan sees Wendy, he throws up.
Sorry, Cook.
Number 2.
All right, so we're about the middle of the match. We're back in the ring. Yano hits Ishii with a hot tag. Ishii and Shelton are in the middle of the ring, and I've come to love this spot now. But Ishii usually incorporates this in all of his matches. It's the forearm spot. So it's where they're going just back and forth, just trading forearms to the chin and just screaming at each other. Shelton was hanging in with them, and I loved it. At one point, he's stunned. He shrugs it off. He smiles at the camera, and then they just go back at it, just straight trading elbows, just straight dropping bombs. Ishii decks him with a monster clothesline, and the crowd freaks. That was the first time I heard the crowd, which leads me to believe that obviously Shelton and my boy Suzuki are the heels of this match. So it's telling a good story. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3.
Yano's now tagged in. He dodges a corner attack from Suzuki, and he's just flailing his arms in the air. And it's something similar to like RVD's taunt, where he just, points his thumbs to himself and he's chanting RVD. He's saying something in Japanese. It sounds cool. But anyway, Suzuki is right there to just kick him right in the ass. Just Spartan kicks him straight in the ass every time he's trying to pull off that trademark taunt of his. That was pretty good. Number 4.
Oh, wait a minute. I like how Minoru Suzuki, Yano is portrayed as this character that's like, a joke.
Yeah.
But all of the other wrestlers, like even somebody as serious and badass as Minoru Suzuki, still respect Yano enough to kind of give him a little like space. They're like, okay, this guy, we know during the G1s, he's been a spoiler. This guy has serious wrestling chops, but he's also a goofball. So like,
well, to bring it back, like Orange Cassidy,
right?
Same thing.
Serious wrestling chops, man. I mean, yeah, Yano, he kids around a lot, but I mean, you'll see. You'll just see. We'll go to number 4.
And that's why I like Yano, and that's why I gave Cookie a Yano match. Number 4.
All right. So I don't know where the handcuffs come from. I guess Yano brought him in the ring, and here's what we're talking about. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Suzuki handcuffs himself to Yano, and he just starts molly-whopping Yano. He's handcuffed to him, left hand to the right hand, and Suzuki is just raining freaking haymakers on the Yano, and they're stiff. I mean, at one point, he sends the ref clear across the ring. Great sell from the ref. Knocks him clear across the ring. The match is over. Match is thrown out. Bells ringing. I don't know what happens, but the young lions come in. Shelton's coming in. They're trying to get the two apart from each other. And Yano pulls a Chris Angel. He magically slips out of the ring, and now Suzuki is somehow handcuffed to this young lion.
Mind freak.
Mind freak. Exactly.
Cookie, this is why I specifically texted you. I said, watch through the end of the video, because the entire last bit of this segment, I feel like, is part of what makes this entire match.
It does. It makes the whole match. And Suzuki's handcuffed to this young lion, and I assume this is Yano's young lion that he just sacrificed to the wolf. And oh man, this poor kid after the match, he's just pulled through the audience, through the stage area, and Suzuki just starts punching the shit out of him right on this barricade. Literally pops him a good 5 times and then drags him through the double doors of the back entrance.
And that's why I love Yano, because Yano is, yeah, like you said, he's always getting one over. Like he may not be the most technical or the best wrestler, but he knows how to work the system-ish. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
The fact that he was handcuffed and Suzuki's just raining blows, and somehow he gets out from underneath it, and then again, I don't know Japanese, but he gets the microphone and he's just talking shit to Suzuki while he's handcuffed to the young lion about basically like, come and touch me. Get it. What do you think you can do?
Yes.
And then Suzuki just beats the shit out of this poor kid.
Yano will always get the last laugh, and that's why I respect Yano.
I love Yano.
So he was the first person to get a win over Jon Moxley in New Japan last year. How amazing is that?
Anywhere. Jon Moxley hadn't lost at that point.
No, not at all. But honorable mentions, I think both of them are going to go to Yano. Yano and his tricks. He's about to be powerbombed at one point towards the end of the match by Suzuki. He grabs the ref, uses him as an anchor. Ref is turned, so he spits something into Suzuki's face. This is disgusting. It doesn't look like Muta's missed, I'll tell you that. It just looks like he pulled a Hoke County and spit on this dude and tried to roll him up.
This was my favorite part of the entire match because it is pure Yano.
Yes.
Like Suzuki is about to murder this man. He has beat him senseless. He is about to powerbomb him. And then Yano grabs, like hooks the leg of the referee who like stops it all, whatever it is. And then, Yano doesn't miss him. He loogies, much like that Hoke County loogie, into Suzuki's face. And he gets the roll up. Like he literally rolls him up, and I'm like, holy shit, is this about to happen? And obviously Suzuki kicks out. I mean, but at the time I thought, oh my God, this is how Yano wins.
I thought it was going to be the most Yano ending. I was like, well, there it is. Yano pulls another one off.
But all it did was really piss Suzuki off because it's so funny because like the one thing I always say, I'm the most like passive person. I feel like I'm a very passive person. I may be angry, as Aaron says, but I'm a very passive person. But if somebody were to walk up to me and spit in my face, like I'm going to fucking try my hardest to kill you. Like I literally don't
brain bust you.
I don't get in fights. I'm always the level head. But if somebody were to spit on me, like guess what? We're going to fucking town because I'm going to try to murder you. And I feel like Yano in this point was just trying to do whatever he could to get the win.
Now listen, Mike, would you consider that to be the ultimate disrespect?
Spitting in somebody's face?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, listen. Yano takes it a step further, and he straight up pours a full water bottle on Suzuki's head, and then he beats him with the plastic bottle.
Yeah, well, Cookie, you didn't mention the part in the beginning where he, like, spits water at Suzuki, and he's, like, throwing water on him there, too. Like, that's what there was a tale of two matches, honestly. It was Ishii and Benjamin versus Yano and Suzuki, because Suzuki was out for vengeance the whole time. I wish I understood Japanese so I could actually get the context of whatever this match was, but I was just telling the story in my head, and it was a phenomenal match to watch.
Phenomenal. And again, this is not the man to mess with, but Suzuki, listen, he has a cul-de-sac mohawk. I want you guys to Google it. Tell me what you find on Twitter or something like that. But Suzuki fucking decks Yano right after that. But rather he gets beat with that water bottle straight on the chin, and you can't tell me he was not knocked out after that first punch.
Dude. But it was so funny, and I hope I'm not spoiling it, but when Yano's like grabbing his mohawk, those couple times where like Yano, he's gonna get one over. He knows what to do, and he was grabbing the back of Suzuki's head and like pulling him forward. But then he's trying to rah the crowd, and he just like gets punted in the back by like Shelton Benjamin. It was
every single time.
Dude, I loved this match. Last week on the podcast, I no-sold the fact that I was like, these are nothing to write home about. I rewatched them this week, and I go, Aaron's and Cookie's matches. Something to write home about. These are great matches.
Perfect matches. And listen, I'm going to give this match, I think I'm going to give it 4.5 cookies.
There you go.
4.5.
I'll take it.
Match.
It was a great match. As I said, I was not searching for 5 cookie matches. I was just searching for matches that incorporated people that I really enjoyed. And the fact that I got to see Ishii, Yano, Suzuki, and then Shelton Benjamin. I actually have not seen much of Shelton Benjamin's work. After I gave you this match, I went ahead and like looked up some highlights from Shelton Benjamin. That guy's crazy, especially in ladder matches. Like he does some work.
When I was getting back into professional wrestling, Eddie Guerrero had just died, and that was the reason why I wanted to start watching wrestling again. I wanted to I watched the Raw memorial to Eddie Guerrero, and on that night they had a match between Kurt Angle and Shelton Benjamin. And there was no storylines in any of these matches. It was just an athletic contest between two guys. And that single match was the reason why I started watching wrestling again. I had been lapsed for like 2 years at that point, and Shelton Benjamin changed my mind about what you could do in a professional wrestling match to make it look real, make it look athletic. And he was the reason why I started watching wrestling again.
So correct me if I'm wrong. He came in at the same time that John Cena and Brock Lesnar did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people were like, this guy's the truth. Like, this guy's the most athletic dude we've ever seen. And he actually never saw the acclaim that those two did.
No, because he was kind of saddled with really bad gimmicks. He had the somebody better call my mama gimmick, like when he had his Shelton Benjamin's mother walked him to the ring, and it was bad. Then the gold standard didn't really get over, but he had matches with Triple H, and he had a match against Shawn Michaels that just skyrocketed his acclaim. People saw this match, and it was one of the first times somebody took a out of the air super kick. He took Sweet Chin Music while he was diving,
and that's still one of the more famous gifts from that time too. Shelton's famous, man. I think Shelton should have had the title a long time ago, the big title. He's kind of like Kofi Kingston, where he's just put in a lot of years of work and he just never got that chance. But hopefully he does in the near future, man.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move to the high spot. Chris Tolbert, I gave you the Dark Outsiders versus Raider Rock and Tolbert's boy, Jeff Hart. Tolbert, tell me about your match.
You give Cookie and Varnam these amazing world-class matches. Just like, hey, guys, it's been a year. I love you guys. Here's some world-class, just amazing wrestling. You can have this, Tolbert. Here, you take this.
Hey, man, Jeff Hart's your boy. I know how much Chris Tolbert loves Jeff Hart.
I do.
Tolbert, I scoured the internet trying to find a Jeff Hart match.
But then later in the week, we all actually got to watch a really decent Jeff Hart match against Joey Janela.
Decent.
It was awesome.
Decent's a liberal term. I also mentioned how I was not going to pay for a Jeff Hart match. So I was trying to find a Jeff Hart match.
I did.
That we could, on the podcast budget, give to Tolbert. And so, Tolbert, I gave you this match. Go ahead and tell us about your match.
Well, it is the Dark Outsiders, and I don't know how dark they are, but they are some outsiders. They look like they just left the military surplus store and suited up before this match.
While listening to Insane Clown Posse.
Yes. Yes. Obviously, they're into the metal. They have their metal music playing as they enter this. I mean, what a draw for this match. I mean, it's just the crowd's hyped.
Hey, Tolbert, if you had to give a liberal,
of them are just so hyped.
I was say, if you had to give a liberal estimate, how many people are in the stands?
Liberal estimate without. All right, first of all, the camera is the guy's cell phone, right?
Yep. How is it recorded for the first half?
Well, I wrote in my notes, cameraman trying to decide between hamburger and hot dog, probably doing the same backstage before he came out.
I'll just have both.
Yeah, I just have both. And that's what he did with the camera. You can tell he's like, I'm going to get this good angle. But you know how when you turn your phone, it flips and films upside down. Yeah, so it's nauseating for a moment. But he figures it out. I'll give him the benefit of a doubt.
Hey, you know what? Raider Rock looked way better in hot dog than he did hamburger.
Yeah.
He looked like he had a hot dog and a hamburger stuck in his cheek.
Yeah, or he had him in his
like
tights
a chipmunk.
as an illegal weapon.
That goiter he has.
Good God.
Oh, you're going to talk about his cyst?
All right, Tolbert, tell us about the match.
Anyway, so they come out of the ring. There's maybe, I don't know, estimate. You asked me estimate, maybe 7 people there. If that, we can't quite see behind the cameraman. Maybe the hard cam side is packed. I don't know.
The hard cam side.
Well, they come out to the dastardly tag team of Raider Rock and Jeff the Hitman Hart, the only member of the Hart family that moved to Montreal or Winnipeg. Winnipeg, wherever he's from.
Is that his actual gimmick?
Yeah, that's what people say.
Oh, my God.
But he's obviously from North Carolina.
Yeah. So this match starts off. I don't know which one is which of the Dark Outsiders. But
Just call them both number 2.
Yeah, you got number two. You got a long-haired one. You got a bald one. They're both in camo. We see some crisp, clean moves from.
Is that because they were so slow?
Here's the sarcasm in my voice. We actually see a clothesline where he catches them with his wrist, and they sell so hard. They try so hard. And, I'll give this is $5 wrestling, right?
It's not even
familiar with $5 wrestling.
It's about $2.50.
They are. Aaron, can you give us a history on $5 wrestling? I don't want to.
No,
this is not $5 wrestling.
Yeah, this is not $5 wrestling. They just have some of the members of $5 wrestling.
This is literally 25-cent wrestling.
About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. High Spots, a company that releases all sorts of local DVDs and compilations and stuff. It's kind of like a pro wrestling superstore in Charlotte. One of the guys there, Jake Feuerbach, who was also known as the Man Scout Jake Manning. I managed him once in Whiteville, of all places. I dressed up in my Boy Scout uniform and brought a canteen to the ring. This guy did a documentary on the boys from Burt County, the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, and it was just terrible indie wrestling that people couldn't get enough of because these guys were cutting really bad promos and they thought they were good, and it just ended up being like kind of like a funny thing. People were making fun of these people.
And it's since become like kind of, I wouldn't say a sensation, but in the indie wrestling scene, it's kind of like an underground –
yeah, people love
YouTube
it.
Sensation.
Yeah,
people love it. These guys.
But that's $5 wrestling, Tolbert.
Yeah.
We bought tickets to it in Tampa.
Yes. Well, what I was getting to, Mike, is that this is some of the members of $5 Wrestling.
There are some participants, but as I told you,
this is probably a Burt County show before $5 Wrestling came on.
Tolbert, as I told you last week, this video has been on YouTube for 9 years. It had 135 views. It currently has 139 views.
Ooh,
wow.
That is the 4 of us watching this terrible match.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, and good on them. They tried to put on a good show for all that. I'll have to say, some of the crowd, I wrote down some quotes from the crowd. Give him the shooter. This one guy just kept saying, put him in the shooter. Which, if you guys aren't familiar, the sharpshooter is Bret Hart, wrestling superstar, Hall of Famer. It's his finishing move, and he has adopted this. And as we saw in Joey Janela versus Jeff Hart, he doesn't quite put it on the right way all the time, but he gives it his best.
And Tolbert, I believe that is the same guy that also tried to start a "This is awesome" chant.
And This is awesome chant did start up, excuse me, but it was not that awesome. There was also another heckle from the crowd. You got a lot to learn, boy. And yes, they do. It's an accurate statement. Oh, man. So you just see this really slow. You could tell they're trying to set up the move before talking to each other. It's comical. I wrote, oh, my God, the series of elbow drops from the Dark Outsider. Yes, Jeff Hart down. He drops an elbow, one elbow. He drops another elbow, two elbows. He keeps dropping those elbows. And as slow as I'm talking right now to describe the elbows, you hear a heckle from the crowd. Give him one more. God damn it, he does.
And he obliged.
Jeff Hart comes back with the slappy chops. That's what I wrote. He gives him the chops, just the slappy chops. Hits him with a Bronco Buster on the second rope. I don't know. As poorly executed as some of these moves, they have to inflict some injury when you take a Bronco Buster from Jeff Hart on the bottom rope. Jesus, no matter how slow he comes at you. So, in the meantime,
mentally and physically.
As this is going on, old Raider Rock is just kind of chilling on the apron. Jeff Hart's kind of still in the show.
Can you explain his facial paint for us?
So it's kind of like a kitty cat mixed with Sting and
He looks like he got stung.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna make fun of his. You're gonna make fun of his thing on his face.
Yes.
I mean, all right. I guess we're going there. Yeah, he does have a mighty large. I'd call it a cyst. I don't know.
This was nine years ago. Imagine how big it is now.
Or maybe he got it taken care of. I don't know. Maybe the promoters of $5 Wrestling hooked him up. I don't know. Got him some, I don't know, new teeth like the Tiger King dude. I don't know. Who knows?
Toru, can you talk about the intensity with which Jeff Hart picked the one guy
Not much
up
intensity.
and slammed him into the corner post?
So much intensity.
And then slammed him into the ground.
Because that was definitely the high spot of the match. Jeff Hart, he's a big boy. He scooped him right up. And he's going to charge him right into the turnbuckle.
Charge, yes.
The cameraman can't quite keep track of him because he's moving so fast. But the cameraman gets there just in time to see him slightly just...
He charged him with the intensity.
Turnbuckle.
He charged him with the intensity that I plug in my phone.
Yeah.
It's really carefully.
It's as if he changed his mind and he was like, you know what? I'm just going to body slam you. I'm not going to put you through that. I'm not going to make you take that bump, boy. Yes,
I know how to compare this intensity. It was the intensity of Aaron running that try right before COVID-19 hit us.
Yeah, it's right before COVID-19.
Try score. Yes.
You know, that's why the virus hit us. That was the peak of rugby.
That was actually the thing that cracked the universe, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
No, that's exactly what it was.
It splintered the Ultraverse.
It did.
Cookie, I didn't see you run a 75-meter try that game.
No, because Cookie was standing up for his boy and shooting on that motherfucker.
Damn right.
Cookie was shooting. Anyway, back to the match. So Raider Rock finally gets...
match.
Raider, somehow Jeff makes a tag. I didn't see this tag happen. I don't know. Raider finally gets in the ring. And he puts one of the members of the Dark Outsiders in this I would call it a modified toe hold, where it looked like he was actually going to fucking pop his ACL. I was like, stop doing that. And the guy, I don't know, it probably actually fucking hurt. It was like, stop it. In the meantime, Jeff Hart is outside of the ring. And I was
smoking a cigarette.
I was a little confused about this whole ordeal because while this is going on, there's a manager of sorts outside of the ring. You can barely see him in the background holding a Singapore cane. And while Jeff Hart is outside, if you look in the background, it's very poor video quality. He smacks the shit out of Jeff Hart across the face with it. I mean, it is a legit blow. The whole crowd... All 7 of them pop for it.
Can you imagine taking that bump in front of 7 people?
Dude, he hits the shit out of him where it made me go like, oh my God. It was a shitty match until that happened. And he goes, do it again. And he does it again. It just smacks the shit out of him. And he goes down. You know it had to hurt. I was like, oh my God. And it's, after seeing that and then seeing his match against Joey Janela, taking all those bumps and torture, this man can take a hit. He's not very flashy. He can take a hit.
Albert, how would you describe Jeff Hart?
Like the member of the Hart family that was raised in the shed with the bear. He wasn't allowed to come in the house.
He's like Bart Simpson's twin brother in that Halloween episode.
Yes, that is exactly it. I don't know if anyone's seen that episode.
I don't get that reference, but I wrote down it's as if Bob from Bob's Burgers put on 40 pounds and became a wrestler.
Yes, that's pretty spot on. All those are pretty spot on. He's a big boy. He wears pink
Jinko jeans
like the Hart family does. They're not quite Jinkos. They're very lightweight. I can see them.
They're very wide ankled though.
Yeah, yes, they're not boot cut.
I give him respect. He wears boots under those wide leg.
Yeah, that's about the only thing legit about his gimmick is that he has real wrestling boots.
He does. We get back to some solid back and forth from Raider Rock. Anyway. This is going on. You actually see Jeff put on a sharpshooter I'm just confused about what is going on because it's so slow paced. At one point, I said, "Would you call that a pedigree that the Dark or Outsiders put on Raider Rock?" I wouldn't call it a pedigree. I would call it a shelter dog last pick. I don't know. I don't know what you would call that.
A shelter in place.
Yeah, it's a shelter in place order. So this is where I'm confused. The same manager that hit Jeff with a Singapore cane earlier is on the curtain while one of the members of Dark Outsiders is trying to make a pin, and he just kind of lip-wristed slaps him with the Singapore cane. Doesn't put any flick into it all. You're just like, you stop it. And then
You stop.
and then steps into the ring, takes a shot from the Singapore cane that he dropped and no-sells it. He just no-sells everything. These wrestlers go after him. He's no-selling everything and then shoots on the wrestlers, and he's throwing out DDTs and, like, throwing punches. And DQ. DQ. The match is over. Dark Outsiders take the win. Yep.
Wait, what about Jeff Hart coming in with
Boys, any final thoughts on Tolbert's match?
That was hard to watch, Mike. Thank you for 1 year of
He said it all.
You know what? I was just trying my hardest to find you a match of an individual who I know you cared and respected. So I found that Jeff Hart match.
As much as we like to laugh at it, goddamn if he doesn't give it his all, and he can really.
I'm not saying he didn't try. I'm just saying he's terrible at it.
Anyway,
with that, Tolbert, your haiku.
The haiku it is then. Burger or hot dog? Boys, sorry, can't pay you. Jeff Hart won that night.
There you go.
The
there
last
it is.
line, I wrote two lines.
Oh.
The other one was, "Can y'all help break down?"
Tolbert, can you read us it again just straight through?
All right. Burger or hot dog? Boys, sorry, can't pay you. Jeff Hart won that night.
There you go. And Jeff Hart did win that night. We won that night and this night because, you know what, we succumbed and overcame the coronavirus, boys. We managed to still get together. We managed to make it 52 weeks. That is 1 year of podcasting. How the fuck we did it, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
But here we are.
I would say that Aaron Varnam is the glue that holds this podcast together. So thank you, Aaron, again. With that, next week, your boy Cookie,
he's here
hosting $2 Steak of Pro Wrestling Podcast. Cookie, any thoughts on next week?
Yes, there are.
No, what are they, Cookie? Please tell us.
You better bring the energy, boys, because I'm coming in hot. Okay, the energy's coming next week, and you know
Steve
what?
Harvey over here.
Listen,
Is it racist?
No, I'm not bald yet, so it's not racist. Anyway, so here's what I'm gonna do. What I want is I'm gonna give you guys options as to what your match is gonna be. Mike, I'm gonna start with you. Would you rather have a TLC ladder / gimmick match, or would you rather have big meaty men a bumping meat?
Cookie, go ahead and give me those big meaty men bumping meat.
If you want the big meaty man bumping meat, then I'm gonna give you a match from No Way Out 1997. It's gonna be Kane versus Vader.
Let's go,
shit.
dude. Let's go. Some big boys.
Big men.
Boys.
And they bumping meat, let me tell you.
Let's go.
Aaron.
Yes, sir.
Would you rather have, you're filling in for the strong style. So would you rather have Lucha Libre from WCW era around that time?
Right.
Or would you rather have a classic slobber knocker featuring a Sting and or a Bret Hart?
Is that even a question? I want option 2.
You want Sting and Bret Hart?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, then that's what you're going to get from WCW, and I'm going to work on finding that match for you.
All right.
My man Tolbert.
Yes, wait.
The hot spot
Cookie, I know we give Aaron a lot of shit about, like, wow, that's a lot of pro wrestling. How much wrestling have you watched this week?
Lord, how high are you that you're sucking that microphone down your throat?
I'm very high, and I had to watch
Tolbert?
a WWE Network from over the 90s. So this is where I get to Tolbert.
Yes.
ECW is coming your way.
Mhm.
Would you rather have a New Jack / Gangsters match, or something between Sabu and RVD?
Oh, that's a tough call because we did watch, the Dark Side of the Ring this week, and it
Yes.
was brutal. We've been making pencil shaving jokes all week. And as much as I want to roll up, I don't know. I'm going to have to say, 420 is coming up, guys. So I'm going to have to opt for the New Jack and Gangsters. Also keep it relevant, what's coming up, what we've been doing this week. That's what I'm going to take.
You're gonna take the Gangsters.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right.
Crazy shit. If
I'm
y'all
gonna
haven't
work on
watched
that. I think I'm gonna give you the Gangsters against the Dudley Boys.
Oh, I love me some Dudley Boys.
Yes. Big things coming your way next week, boys.
Yeah.
All right, with that, stay tuned and thank you for being an avid listener. Thank you for 1 year of podcasting. Please continue to follow us on your respected podcast apps, as well as be on the lookout on Twitter and Instagram at $2 and be on the lookout YouTube $2 Steak podcast. We may not. We may start live streaming. We may not. We may start posting videos. We may not. Who knows how long this quarantine will be? But if it continues much longer, we may start posting videos of ourselves zooming and the interesting perspectives that come from that, with Aaron and his headphones and Cookie doing nefarious things, and Tolbert sitting here with his world map view of places he's been. So again, thank you for listening. Tune in next week to your boy Cookie hosting this wonderful podcast. Thanks for listening.